Hello friends and welcome. I'm VA Adam. In today's video I'll be fitting a new weather seal to the trunk of my 1972 Buick Riviera. The old seal has already been removed from the trunk, but here are some pictures of what it looked like, and as you can see it's pretty bad. It was cracked down the bottom. In some places the seal had actually disappeared completely. I wasn't actually getting any leak issues in the trunk, but as you can see it needed replacing. It was crumbling away. I spent a long time removing the old adhesive as best I could from the gutter. I used a product called Sticky Stuff Remover, which is easy to get over here in the UK. If you're in the US, I think there's a similar product called Goo Gone, which is meant to be very good. I haven't used it myself. I also used a plastic spatula, but you can also use a plastic razor blade or a door trim removal tool to get into the gutter and get into the spaces. The weather seal that I've got here is from a company called Steel Rubber Products, who make excellent reproduction seals and have done so for a very long time. This is actually my second seal from them. When I tried fitting the first one, I had some issues. I dry fitted the seal and everything seemed perfectly fine. So I then applied the adhesive, but when I came to close the trunk, I couldn't get it closed. I was a bit worried that I had fitted something wrong, and I therefore removed it before the adhesive had a chance to dry. I contacted Steel Rubber Products and they actually just sent me a new one free of charge, and a whole load of samples in case any of the sizes were wrong. So I'm really appreciative of them for doing that. Once the replacement was on its way, I dry fitted the other seal once again at a slightly different angle, and I then unbolted the trunk closer and put it to the highest setting. The trunk then did shut down with some force, and I left it for about 2 weeks, and the trunk actually squashed the seal down. I then found that it fitted fine, and I realised that that is actually part of fitting these new seals. So if you are fitting one of these new seals, don't panic if the trunk doesn't close properly. Just be wary of it and just be expected to set the closer to the highest setting and then close the trunk down and just leave it for a while, and it will actually compress the seal down. Then what you'll be able to do is, after a couple of weeks, just put the trunk closer back down a little bit and then close the trunk again, and again it will compress it down even more. So let's have a little look at the profile of the seal and have a look at the instructions. On the first seal, I tried to mimic the instructions exactly and fitted the seal very upright like this. Having watched some more videos and played about with the seal a bit, I'm going to fit it a little bit more like this. From my experience, the key is to make sure that the seal is just fitting comfortably inside the gutter channel. It is very important to make sure that the top curve is facing away from the car, as highlighted in the instructions. It is also important to remember that when the trunk's closed, the seal will squash down and it will slightly alter the shape anyway. So let's start with the process. The first stage is to dry fit the seal. You really need to take your time and make sure that the seal is really pushed in, especially in the corners. The join in the seal should be here at the bottom part where the closer is for the trunk. We want to create a nice, flat, sharp edge for the two ends to join to. You can see that the seal is at an angle as the shape of the trunk is curved. What I've done is I've taken some masking tape and I've taken this along the midpoint on the bumper and the midpoint of the body. This will form our midpoint line to cut the seal to. I want to move the seal across to the left so that we have a little bit of material to cut away. I've moved the seal around and we can see that the midpoint here is against the masking tape. We can just verify that we do have the midpoint by using some string. So what we need to do is pick an endpoint that is the same distance from the middle on each side. These spot welds are a good point. We start with the string at one spot weld and then we run it to the other, following the curve of the gutter. We then measure that and divide it in half. This will give us our midpoint. We can use the string again to measure starting at the same weld point and going down until we reach a measurement which will give us the midpoint. In this case, the string the whole way across was 41 centimetres. So measuring 20.5 centimetres from the original weld point took me to the edge of the masking tape. I therefore am very certain that this is the centre point. I'm going to place another piece of masking tape on the seal against the piece of masking tape that's on the car. This will mean that we can keep the piece of masking tape on the car as a centre point, but we still have a straight edge to cut against on the seal. You can simply cut the seal with a pair of scissors, but it is imperative that you have a good set of sharp scissors. These scissors right here are the only scissors that you will ever need. They are absolutely incredible and they're worth every penny. Link is in the description, and no, I'm not paid to say that. Here is our cut, which as you can see is directly on the edge, perfectly crisp and sharp. Here is seal in with its cut made, but I'm not happy with the angle of the cut. So I'm going to repeat the process, but this time I'm going to cut at more of an exaggerated angle. I've therefore put the piece of masking tape at an angle to reflect this. I believe that the extra piece of rubber on this side is affecting the angle, but this should compensate. So this is so much better now. A much better angle that's much more 90 degrees and will create a much nicer join. Although you could leave it at a bit of an angle and just stick it together with adhesive, just forcing it together, it will cause strain on the join and over time it's more likely to break. So it's just better to take your time at this stage, really get the angle correct. Now we can dry fit the seal all the way around and put it into the corners really nicely, taking our time. And here's the seal dry fitted in. Oh my God, how much better does this look? How good is this looking, guys? The edges are pushed in really well, and as you can see, the seal is tucked really nicely into the recesses of the gutter. You can see when the trunk squashes down that it will actually push this seal and create a really nice tight weatherproof seal around the trunk, preventing any water getting in. Now we get to the scary bit. You have to cut the seal at the bottom, and you're only going to get one chance at this. So you really need to make sure that you double check everything. If you cut it too short, then you're going to be in trouble. But also, if you cut it too long, then that's not ideal either, because you'll try and trim bits back and trim bits back, and it'll get really tatty and it just won't work properly. You've really got to get it right first time. So double, triple check everything. Once again, you need a really good pair of scissors that will make a really sharp, clean cut first time. So I'm using masking tape again to get the cutting point. Make sure that you get the balance right between not taking too much off, but not taking too little off either. Check everything again and again before you cut. Okay, so here's the cut, and it's dry joined together without any adhesive on. And even without any adhesive on, it's really nice and clean and flush. So the next part is to actually add the adhesive. There's a really good video that will run you through the process of how to apply adhesive correctly. I've also touched on this in my other video, which is the air cleaner refurb video. The trick here is to make sure that you don't do the seal in one go completely. Just work on it a little section at a time. About 1 to 2 feet is, I find, a good amount to work on. So remove the seal, make sure that you wipe the seal and the gutter with panel prep wipes, and then use the adhesive. I'm using 3M weather strip adhesive, which I found is absolutely excellent. The method that I spoke about earlier in the other video is in a dentist gauge video and is actually demonstrated by Steel Rubber Products themselves. As mentioned, I talked about this in another video, but it is in the description below if you want to check that video out. In a nutshell, the process is to apply a very thin layer of adhesive to the gutter, then a very thin layer of adhesive to the rubber edge. Using something simple like a wooden spatula is a very good method. I actually just got these from a cafe. And it allows you to just spread the adhesive out. So you apply your thin layer, spread it out, and then you wait for it to go tacky. And that's when you push the two pieces together. So to summarize this, thin layer on both sides, spread it out, wait for it to go tacky, push the two pieces together. Whew, so the seal's actually installed now. I'm sorry there's no footage of the seal actually going in, but it required so much concentration that once I started, I couldn't really stop. I was just doing a section at a time, and just make sure that you have all of your tools to hand, a lot of kitchen roll, and I probably went through about 5 pairs of gloves while I was doing it, so make sure you've got lots of those to hand as well. Use the panel prep wipes to clean any adhesive or sort of spillage or leakage away quickly, as it sets quite quickly and it's then much more difficult to get off. I am really thrilled about how this turned out. I think it's looking so good. The butt join here is also sealed with the same adhesive. The reason that you put the join in this location is because this is the last place where the water would come in at the bottom. Imagine that if this seal was at the top, then the water would really easily just make its way in through the join. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. And until next time, this is V8 Adam signing off.